But Mr. Lobi, the thing is, I mean, that's why we have the police, to anticipate this kind of scenario. And if not nip them in the bud, but prevent them from happening. So doesn't the police expect that, well, certain persons may, because, I mean, there's a history of elections in this country and what happened, especially in context of the Osun State governorship election that was just concluded not long ago, and the matter which is still in the tribunal. So didn't the police anticipate this was going to happen? Are we going to say the police, well, they did their best, but the material still had to be burnt, or the hoodlums won, in this case, by burning the materials?
Yeah, I agree with you that, you see, in crisis management, you anticipate crisis to control crisis, because otherwise it might snowball to a magnitude you cannot control. That is proactiveness, anticipating, and maybe based on past experiences, they actually ought to have actually secured the place. But I don't know if maybe there's some lapses here, there and there. But I think the police too have learned from whatever that must have happened. If there were lapses, at least they will take action to ensure that that situation doesn't occur again. And I'm sure that subsequent elections, such things will not happen again. Now, I'm sure the IG and the Commissioner of Police, the AIG, and of course the area commanders, officers who are within that Osun, will be given the marching order to beef up security in all the areas. And not only that, also will officers and men of the police in all officers in the various commands should also ensure that they should beef up security in all INEC offices, because now they don't only go to the police station, they only move to INEC offices. So I think police should beef up security in all INEC offices to prevent such occurrence in the future. So and that we still have elections come on the 9th of March.
You know, I know that, you know, they're always looking to improve. You know, when they get back to the briefing, they always want to see them improve, and I'm sure they always want it themselves. Having seen this has now happened. What should we then expect? Should we expect the police to give a briefing concerning that? Either they're investigating, or give them a timeline, or give us a timeline, or if they've made any arrests whatsoever, because at the moment, there isn't any word from that command there.
And of course, the police have a duty under Section 4 of the Police Act to investigate such criminal cases, acts of arson, of violence, of vandalization of government infrastructures. They will definitely investigate. Anybody find culpable, anybody who is implicated will be actually dealt according to the law. And again, you see, we normally have what we call a post-mortem. After each operations, they review the activities of the police, actions of the police, look at where did they perform well, where didn't they perform well, where were their weaknesses and their strength, where were their lapses, so that they cannot build on and improve on it. Of course, there's always that desire and determination to improve on whatever has happened. So I think the police, like I said earlier, they've learned from whatever mistake. Like I said, no system is perfect or fault-proof. That there may be no lapses. Like even in life, that God created Himself, there's some problems here and there. But I think the police have learned, the police command have learned, and operations have also learned. I'm sure that they will now raise to the judge, and give the rules of engagement are normally being given. And those rules of engagement are meant to guide the conduct of officers and men who are deployed for such security duties. I think I'm very confident that the subsequent election things will be better. And now, with this incident, and now I think, like I said, they will anticipate crisis to control manage crisis. This is a lesson they have learned, and I'm sure they will improve subsequent elections, and they will now think how to re-strategize and how to deploy, and so beef up men when they have such flash points or such areas that with probably violence is still anticipated.
Well, Mr. Lobi, I don't know if this rule of engagement was also considered, because according to all that we have heard so far, the chain of command as far as the election security was concerned was supposed to be led by the Nigeria police. But then we have heard cases of actions of the military in all of this process. It seems like even though the police was the lead agency, the security agency, the military was very, very frontal in all of this. And what's your take on that discordance in terms of the rules of engagement between the police and the military?
This election process or election police management of security, the police, as it is known by law and all over the world, police is the lead agency. You see, the police is a civil authority that is supposed to manage the society in terms of check crime, maintain law and order, prevent crime, protect life and property. And election security is also key and central for the to give that credibility, the integrity of the electoral process when the police are there. But the military are not supposed to be in the forefront. That's because they are not the lead agency. They're supposed to just to assist, like Section 217 of the Constitution, to assist civil authority when the need arises. And they normally in this election, they are normally being deployed for either escort or electoral materials and the peripheral security to cover the periphery and the outer areas of the locations of election are being held. So the military are not supposed to, and they're not being, to the best of my knowledge, they're not being deployed at the front line in these elections. But I don't know if they were anywhere, not to my knowledge. And it has not been since my service in the police. They don't come to assist us, and they are normally used to support us. They work in terms of escorting of electoral materials and the periphery, mostly where violence is strongly anticipated. Maybe deployment is also based on need, when they know there's need to deploy here because of either the environment, area where people see violence as a means of achieving goals, where people have a lot of militancy and so forth. For instance, like if you go, the way they deploy in Abuja will not be the way they deploy in Northeast, bring the security the situation in those areas. The military are not actually being used at the frontal line. They are used just to support the police, and that synergy. That's why that synergy, collaboration, and cooperation is always very important. Understanding each other's role. That we're able to support each other, like we're fingers of one hand, work for achieving the common purpose for the good of Nigeria.
All right, well, we've since been joined by Innocent Chukwuma, who is the regional director for Ford Foundation. Somehow, I keep remembering clean. Maybe as a result of all of those materials, those research materials we went through at that time.
You must have had a very clean record.
Well, I've not had a clean break ever since then, maybe. But good to see you again.
Yeah.
But looking at all of this scenario in terms of the conduct, performance, security functions of the police and security agencies for this particular one, in context of some of those scenarios, unfortunate ones that we've seen, how does one assess the police in that context?
Yeah, I would beg to take a minute to just make a general comment about what I observed, yesterday, and then zero in on the police. I would say, in general, we modeled through, as we always model through. But there's also an emerging trend that I'm paying attention to as somebody who has a research interest on this, which is Nigerian elections as an organized crime, in which state actors, private interests, and some community members collude to disrupt the process, suppress vote, with the intention of perhaps denying Nigerians in certain areas from having a right to vote. Now, we are currently tabulating what we're, hearing across the country with a view to determining whether there is a pattern to it, and if there's a pattern to it, who are the targets? Often we say, oh, it's in isolated places, the majority of the places Nigerians voted and went. But if you look at those places you call isolated and disaggregate them, you may see a pattern, and it's actually worrying to me as an individual. And coming back to the question you asked and what I said about modeling, modeling through the election, I observed from Ikeja here, I went through Lagos Island to Ikoyi, to Lekki, to Aja, up to Mefe area. And in none of those places did the elections start at the time they were supposed to start. In some places, even in the highbrow areas in Ikoyi, it was around 10 a.m.
Is that part of the coordinated crime?
No, I'm saying the modeling through. Modeling through. And what were the problems? As I said here on Friday, logistics. In many places, INEC officials did not show up. When they showed up on time, they didn't have the complete materials. In fact, there was one ridiculous case along Lambasa Road in Aja. So they came up, the presidential ballot box had no cover. And for over an hour, people said they were not going to vote because they didn't know why the ballot had no cover. And then through preachment and persuasion, they all agreed, and people trust Nigerians to be resilient and improvise. People provided cardboard papers, some provided adhesive tapes with which they taped the ballot box. And all through that period, it was just one young lady, NYSC officer, who was a presiding officer, with one or two police officers, and this raging crowd who were saying, conspiracy theory, when something like that happened, people feed it. But God so kind, reason prevailed, and they started. So in the area of coming down to the police, one is the deployment. The deployment strategy has always been a problem. I don't know why in high-density areas you would expect police to deploy more. They would have fewer officials. But then in low-density and highbrow areas where everybody believes in the theory of social contract, and you will have so many police officers. And the reason behind is just regime policing. You know, you want to be seen in areas where people who could report you to the IG are present to show that you are there. But in all high
that sounds like highbrow areas.
Yeah, in highbrow areas.
Oh,
so
okay.
they deployed more. But in high density areas where you have more people, people of low status who perhaps have no direct number of or could call IG directly, they deployed few people. And if you remember yesterday, when I talked about, on Friday, when I talked about the institutional challenges police face that would impact their performance during election, I talked about walkie-talkie, I talked about transportation, and you saw the amateur footage that went viral yesterday. You saw one police officer chasing thugs. You know, they would throw the ballot box and papers away, and he'll struggle to gather. If he had walkie-talkie, he would not be engaged in that. He would stay somewhere, call for enforcement, and a motorized patrol will respond. He could have been killed yesterday. So yes, I agree, for the ordinary police officers who were there on election day, they tried their best, but there are institutional challenges that made it absolutely difficult for them to have done any better than they did yesterday.
What do you expect to be done differently then?
Precisely, we always say it. I've been on this channel review for how many rounds of election. We say, oh, go back to the drawing board, review strategy, deploy more to high-density area, provide more communication, provide more motorized patrol and all of that. And you and I know between now and the next 2 weeks, when the elections will hold, they will not be able to procure more vehicles, they will not be able to buy more walkie-talkies, and if you are posted to areas where there's no GSM coverage, you will not be able to call.
All right, we'll come back to this in a moment. Don't go away yet.